The energy here tonight is awesome. I hope you can feel it. Mazel tov to all of our award recipients, and it's just so great to see you all here tonight, including, in particular, new faces, so many community leaders, and I want to give a special welcome to Barry Schrage, who's here tonight. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I want to reflect with you tonight on some of what I've learned this past year about CJP and our community. And I was searching for an image or a metaphor to capture the many voices I've heard, the individuals with whom I've met, the partners and leaders from whom I've learned. And then I realized I don't have to go very far, because that image is on everything we produce, the menorah. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs points out that in the ancient Near East, the most famous buildings were the Egyptian pyramids and the Mesopotamian ziggurats. And see, these weren't just buildings. They were statements in stone of a hierarchical social order, ruled at the top by the king, the pharaoh, and then the elites beneath him, and then beneath them, the laboring masses. And Judaism is a protest against this hierarchy. See, because when every human being is created in the image and the likeness of God, then no leader and no person stands above everyone else. And so the great symbol of biblical Israel, the menorah, is actually an inverted pyramid. The menorah flips the script of leadership in much the same way that our hyper-connected, networked 21st century society flips civic, cultural, and Jewish life. Last year, people said to me, Mark, I think it's time that we blow open the doors and the windows of this place, that we break down inner circles and open up rooms where it happens to anyone who wants to be part of this. And they were definitely referring to CJP, but they were referring to our community more broadly. You can feel something happening right now in our society, our world of digital media, organizing and social movements, radical connectedness. You can feel what I would call a democratizing impulse. And I can feel it in our community. People are saying, we're done waiting for civic or national leaders or rabbis or teachers or even a federation on High Street to transmit knowledge to us, to solve our problems for us, to mediate our cultural and spiritual journeys. It's not that we don't need these leaders, but we want to be part of communities that engage and empower us. We're optimistic about the future, but we feel the pain of real problems in our lives and in our world. We don't want to be passive. We want to show up, to learn, engage, act, and contribute to a better future. I believe this impulse explains why so many of us every year attend events for hundreds of Jewish organizations, regardless of how rubbery the chicken is. Just kidding, Andrew, if you're in here. Just kidding. I believe this impulse motivates those of us of every age and demographic who choose to learn in schools and online, in Maya through Hebrew College, or self-organized groups with teachers who inspire us. It inspires thousands of people a year to travel to Israel and other parts of the world through our college campus IACT initiative, our Boston-Haifa connection, on transformative, life-changing missions, and more. This impulse is why we volunteer with the many community organizations that enable us to give back, both inside and outside the Jewish community, including spending countless hours, many in joy, some of them in tears, on boards of organizations that we care so much about. And I believe this impulse is why over 1,700 people showed up this year to be part of our 365 listening tour. And this is just the beginning, because our community wants, needs, and is ready for broader and deeper engagement. So, what is motivating us right now? Throughout the listening tour, I heard what I would call 3 paradoxes that capture this moment that we're in. Number 1, we are a community of communities made up of very strong institutions about which we are very proud and that we value dearly. At the same time, though, we know that many of those institutions are vulnerable, they're too siloed, and they need to keep adapting and evolving to continue to thrive. We have work to do. 2, we're a warm and welcoming community with countless ways to connect to Jewish life. Just check out jewishboston.com. You could do something Jewish every night of the week. At the same time, there are too many people falling through the cracks or still on the margins, not sure how to find their way in or whether they will be truly welcomed if they do. Too many people are seeking meaning and connection, but just haven't found it yet in Jewish life. We have work to do. And 3, we share a lot in common. We're a community of learners, animated by big ideas, shared values, and aspirations. We take pride in the greater whole that is the greater Boston Jewish community. At the same time, we are deeply divided about how we interpret and apply those values and about the best ways to reach our common destination. We have trouble even talking about what matters most to us, whether the topic is Israel or social justice or even how to confront anti-Semitism. We have work to do. And we know from our history as Jews and as Americans that the answers, the way forward, is not going to come from on high. It's not going to come from someone out there. It's going to come from in here and in here. Nearly 2,000 years ago, we faced one of the greatest challenges and crises in Jewish history. The destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, our geographic, political, cultural, and spiritual center, meant the end of the practice of Judaism as we knew it, and an uncertain, if not unlikely, future for the Jewish people. And debates about how to respond to that crisis reflected deeper debates about values, beliefs, and the nature of Judaism, the nature of the threats we faced, and the best way forward. Some people focused on the past, others on the future. Some on conserving what was, others on creating what would be. Some on the threats from without, others on the flaws from within. Sound familiar? At best, these debates make us stronger when they are built on a foundation of commitment, trust, and love. At our worst, these differences tear us apart, dividing us from within, even enabling those who would try to destroy us from without. And I think it's that fear that many of us are feeling when we talk about the existential threat of divisiveness and polarization, both in the Jewish community and in our broader society. This is why it is so critical that CJP and all of us find ways to come together across our differences, to lift up different voices, to create space for generative disagreement and dissent in service of a shared mission, vision, and future. And the good news is, we know how to do this. Our community is home to many of the leading institutions of American democracy and the leading institutions of Jewish pluralism, from day schools to a 21st century mikveh to our historic Jewish university. We have and will continue to light the way as a model of what it means to be a community that stands together on the strength of our diversity rather than in spite of it. And we can learn something else from the way the rabbis responded to that crisis 2,000 years ago, which led to the creation of the Talmud, to the synagogue as we know it and are sitting in it, to Jewish life and practices as we live them today. You see, rather than hold on to the hierarchy of the priesthood that had defined spiritual and political life for centuries, the rabbis trusted their connection all the way back to Mount Sinai. And then they too flipped the script, inverted the hierarchy, turned the menorah of the temple into the construct for Jewish community. Sacrifice, done only by priests in the temple, became prayer done by anyone, anywhere, with synagogues defined not by brick and mortar, but by minyan, by community, wherever that community gathered. The sacrificial altar became the Shabbat table in the home, where hyper-local, do-it-yourself Judaism put ritual in the hands of parents, responsible for passing it on to their children in ways that would be relevant and meaningful to the next generation. And the priest, the leadership position that you could only inherit, reserved for a few, regardless of merit, became the teacher, the scholar, the learner, something open to and expected of everyone. Our tradition is the inheritance of our entire community. In today's world, with technology at our fingertips, this really does mean everyone, regardless of background, age, or gender, regardless of knowledge or Hebrew level, regardless of belief. Anyone can learn anywhere, anytime. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote, "The course of history is directed by the choices we make, and our choices grow out of the ideas, the beliefs, the values, the dreams of the people. It's not so much the powerful leaders that determine our destiny as the much more powerful influence and the combined voice of the people themselves." This is the revolutionary idea of America, and this is the radical, democratizing impulse that has defined Judaism since the rabbis reimagined a bold future millennia ago. The organizing power of CJP would not be possible without the partnerships and the network of institutions and individuals that are represented in this room tonight. When I look back on this past year, I think of the conversations that began on the 365 listening tour. Even as they're just continuing to unfold, they're already shaping our community's future. I think of the thousands of people of every background, every religious and political affiliation, every generation, friends and allies who stood together in tears on Boston Common the day after the massacre at the Tree of Life congregation in Pittsburgh. And then I think of another similarly diverse gathering of our community, this time not in the aftermath of crisis, but in celebration of Israel's 71st birthday, when 2,000 people gathered in joy, togetherness, and love for Israel and one another. Every time I look at that picture, the front page of our calendar, it gives me hope. In his recent book, The Soul of America, John Meacham paraphrased a description of the United States founders' vision of happiness. Beginning with the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of the good of the whole, because the good of the whole was crucial to the genuine well-being of the individual and vice versa, became part of the fabric of our young nation. I read this, and I immediately thought of the Jewish idea, Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Lezeh. All of Israel is bound up with and responsible for one another. We are in this together because we believe in the idea of a covenant that has bound us together for eternity, because we believe in the interconnectedness of all people and all things, local and global, because we know that being part of a greater story, a long, complex past, and a still unfolding future, redeems us from loneliness and disconnection and adds meaning, purpose, and joy to our individual lives. We need one another, and the world needs us to be together and to work together, to find creative and collective solutions to our most challenging problems. Because the paradoxes I heard on the listening tour, the challenges that keep me, and I know many of you, up at night, are not ones that we can solve alone. And this is where CJP comes in, and this is where you come in. On the one hand, our core work has been the same since our founding over 100 years ago. We invest strategic philanthropic resources, and we organize and mobilize people to create a thriving Jewish community that does its part to better the Jewish people, Israel, and the world. But at the same time, that world is changing. And that means CJP needs to change, and how we do our work in partnership with all of you needs to evolve. This is going to require us all to learn and grow, to take risks, and to dream big about what is possible. Imagine dynamic collaborations between schools, synagogues, JCCs, and other institutions that make broader and deeper engagement with Jewish life more accessible and more compelling for everyone. Imagine tackling the emerging challenge of housing for the elderly. So Greater Boston is the model community for combating social isolation and ensuring that members of our community and beyond can age with dignity. Imagine new community-wide education initiatives that increase the knowledge, comfort level, and confidence of people from every background, really opening up Jewish wisdom to all, and enhancing our intellectual, moral, and spiritual discourse. Imagine our next generation not only falling in love with Israel on a 10-day trip, but also stepping up, giving back, leading the way for our whole community, and taking our future into their hands. Imagine a robust civil discourse that is broad enough and deep enough to make room for many conflicting voices without shaming, without litmus testing, and without running back into our echo chambers. Imagine leadership development platforms here and in Israel that attract and grow passionate and committed volunteers and professionals who learn and work together, who deepen relationships and mutual understanding, who strengthen all of our institutions and communities, and who tackle our most challenging problems together. This is our promise. Invest with us and in this community, connect with us and across this community, participate, learn, volunteer, give, whether $18 or $18 million. And we will work with you to ensure that your precious time and energy, that your tzedakah and your philanthropic investment goes further and has an outsized impact. When you leave here tonight, decide what role you want to play in shaping our future. Keep showing up to events. We're all super busy, but your presence matters. Find a group to start learning with. There's no better time than now. Make a gift, however large or small, to CJP or another organization you care about. Volunteer, step up, lead. There is enough work to go around. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight, for being with us on this journey, and for fueling the lights of the menorah that is our Jewish community. I wish us all a Shana Tova and a great year ahead.